This is a cool song. It reminds me of a video game.
Well, you picked it.
Reminds me of a horror movie.
It's kind of anxiety-provoking, actually.
You think so? Shit. Liza, I picked this song for you based on the title, and as I was loading it this morning, I realized that without an explanation, it might seem offensive.
A little bit. My heart's racing a little
Well,
bit.
no, you haven't even heard the title yet.
No, not the music, the title.
The title.
Is it because of caffeine? What is it?
So the song is called Green Pig.
Okay.
Because I thought it sounds like a sandwich at Revival.
Oh, yeah, the Green Goblin. We have that on the menu right now.
Green Goblin, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I had it over the weekend, last weekend. It's very good.
How often are you eating at Revival?
Not as much as I would like.
All right.
You are sporting the swag, though, right now.
I am wearing my
that.
Revival sweatshirt.
He either has a Revival or Crema, your last endeavor.
I love that.
We should mention that this song, as I said already, is called Green Pig, and it's by Soft and Furious.
You liked this?
I like this, yeah.
Or
yeah,
sorry, I'll say in the present tense. You like this?
I do. I think it's cool.
It's changed quite a bit since it started.
Yeah, it's like
Still not good.
It's kind of like rev music, you know, to kind of get
music.
Yeah, it's like rev you up, get you going. Anyway, thank you for bringing lunch.
You're very
I don't know if I
welcome.
should thank you or Jesse.
No?
But I do wish more.
Definitely
of our,
not me.
I do think setting a precedent that our guests bring us food and snacks is a good thing.
Rachel brought snacks last time.
That's right. We had all sorts of desserts and cakes and stuff like that. It was
I'll
very
take credit. He didn't request anything.
good. Okay. Well, thank you.
It's true. I don't think anyone season 1 brought us snacks, did they?
No, I'm not happy about it.
Is that true? No
If you're a
one...
guest on season 1, including Liza's husband, Josh,
And business partner, I have to.
And Nookie was here too. He brought nothing.
Nookie just showed up in his
Sorry,
sweatpants.
Nookie.
And yeah,
That's dressed up, though.
that's true. It's true. Yeah, Dave. Oh, I just kicked my microphone. Dave was commenting on his clothes, and I realized every time I see Nookie, he's wearing that stuff. Like, I don't know why it was such a big deal.
No leg warmers, though.
No
You didn't
leg
get one.
warmers lately.
By stuff, you mean like leisure wear?
Yeah, he looked like he was going to run. Just run somewhere. And he probably is, given how busy he is. I thought also this episode we should start with a little news while Liza is here. The first thing I saw that I thought was interesting, and we don't have to talk too much about this, but it was just an interesting statistic that OpenTable just announced. Let's see, when was this? A couple days ago. I'm looking at Restaurant Business, which I think is restaurantbusiness.com, which I'm sure you go to every day.
All the time.
How did you find this?
It finds me.
Okay.
That's what happens when you're up late at night on your iPad. OpenTable says that dine-in traffic is now only about 20% below 2019 levels, which is shocking to me. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
And this is based on reservations.
Yes, OpenTable reservations. That 75% of U.S. restaurants on OpenTable have reopened already.
Wow. That is surprising.
Down 20% from 2019 seems pretty low.
I don't even know that how it's possible with the restrictions space-wise.
Well, because I guess...
Maybe more people are making reservations.
Well, also other cities and states are not like we are. I mean, Florida's wide open.
Well, that's certainly true.
It's shocking.
So I thought, maybe a promising statistic to start the show. The other thing that I thought was interesting was actually in the New York Times. What day is today? Today's the 9th. We're recording on the 9th.
Friday.
I just broke the fourth wall. I just always wanted to say that. The New York Times yesterday put out an article about how hard it is for restaurants to find workers to work in the restaurant.
True.
And the article's called As Diners Return, Restaurants Face a New Hurdle Finding Workers. And it gives a few reasons. And
This was yesterday's New York
This was in
Times.
yesterday's New York Times.
Read
And
it.
I've heard about this from just local restaurateurs, just trying to find people in the area. So I sort of did a little digging, and sure enough, this just popped up in my news feed. And I think one of the reasons is just demand, right? I'm sorry. No, it's supply, that everyone is hiring at the same time. What did I just say?
It's demand. We all
It's
need
demand.
We
Oh,
all
I had it
need
right.
help. Yeah.
Everybody needs help. Everybody's starting to reopen.
Supply is not great.
Right. It says a persistent worker shortage in the face of an upswing in business as mild weather for outdoor dining spreads across the country, along with the reduced COVID restrictions that came early to South Florida, are now being felt throughout the U.S. Do you feel like you're having issues finding people?
100%. Yeah.
But you always had issues finding people, even pre-pandemic.
Yeah, it's always been challenging to find people, but right now everyone is reopening. Everyone is, scaling up for outdoor dining, and people are out. Sales are going up because people want to be outside. They want to get out. And we're extending hours. We're creating our patios. And people are getting back to some semblance of where they were a little bit before COVID. And a lot of people aren't available. They've either lost, they've left this area. There was no work. They couldn't get unemployment. They're gone. There's a lot of people who are getting unemployment. They don't want to come back, or people have changed industries.
You just mentioned basically, I guess I can put this article down because you just nailed it.
I haven't even read it.
Real life experience.
I'm living it.
Yeah. It does seem counterintuitive that during a pandemic, it's hard to find workers, especially in an industry that was so hard hit. But they're just, you mentioned unemployment, which is a factor, but also I think a lot of people just gave up on the industry altogether.
Mm-hmm. And everyone's looking. If you go on and post a job, everybody is hiring right now. So people have options. Those who are here and who do want to work, they have a lot of options out there. So.
A lot of options, and also safer options in their mind. I'm not going to get into a discussion about whether or not it's safe to be in restaurants. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people that feel like it's not as safe a place to work as some other places. If they can go work in real estate, for example, or work for Amazon,
work remotely,
they feel that that's safer. So a lot of people just don't want to be back in restaurants as workers, which I think is interesting.
There's been a lot in the news about that as well. I also think, Liza, you said it, there are people who've just left the area over the last year.
Yeah, I know that in the Times article, it mentions that, and especially in New York, the city is so expensive. It's so hard to live there. If you lose your job and you don't really have anything happening for you there, you just move. A lot of people are moving back home to their parents. Right. Or just back where they're from and getting jobs. So yeah, I imagine New York's going to is even like one of the probably the toughest places.
I can't imagine what Manhattan looks like right now.
I talked to a buddy of mine this week who lives in Brooklyn. He was working in Manhattan. He said it has been remarkably quiet up until he said March. He said things are starting to come back to life. There are more people on the sidewalks. I'm sure there's statistics around it. I have a quick question though, Les. Would you say you've been at this for 15 years in the business, hiring 15 years? Would you say this is the hardest moment from a hiring perspective in your 15-year career owning cafes, restaurants?
It's a great question.
Or one of?
Yes, for sure.
I just made it easier by saying one of.
Yes. You're
welcome.
Yes. You backed out of that one.
You see that, Drew? Well, she's my sister. I got to help her out more than a usual guest here.
And it's different though, because, I am not right on the front line of doing all the hiring right now. So I'm experiencing it. I'm seeing it.
Who does it normally?
Right now?
Yeah. Why do you say that?
Well, because our managers do it. Nookie does a lot of the kitchen hiring, and then the front of the house is our
partner, Nookie, Chef Nookie,
and our general manager and other managers are doing the front of house. We're getting people. It's just taking time, and it's not as quickly as we would like and then it's kind of like a scramble to get everyone trained and to do a proper job training.
Are you more? Are you okay with less experience than you might have been in the past when somebody comes through the door?
Yeah, I think generally over the years we are okay with less experience. We're looking for good quality people who are hospitable and who like people and who want to be working in that environment, and they're hard workers. If you like people and you're a hard worker, you're going to be great. Yeah. And experience is not required.
So that hasn't changed. That's always been a philosophy for you.
Yeah.
Are you paying the same today as you were pre-pandemic, hourly?
Well, there's a couple interesting things. Minimum wage went up.
Yep.
We increased wages, and tips are good.
Oh, that's interesting.
People want to support the restaurant industry, and the operations is all takeout. Everyone's going through the online ordering, at least for most of our locations. So they're prompted with the tip recommendation.
I have a question about tips for you. Now, in a restaurant, we know that you have servers coming to your table, and there's a big debate now, or I don't know if it's a debate, but there's a push to get back of house workers included in the tip pool, which in Massachusetts is illegal.
Correct.
How does it work for a cafe if there's people behind the counter and there's like a tip jar? Can that tip go to everybody?
No.
Or is it the same thing?
No, and this has been a hot topic for us for the last 2 years, because the wage discrepancy, which I'm sure has probably come up, is real. And it's tough because you have people who are making a lot of money in front of the house, and you have people who are working their asses off back of house, and you can't pay them enough to get it to be making as much as the tipped employees.
It's going to come right out of your pocket too.
Yeah, I mean, we did start something that has helped. We are doing a hospitality fee. So there's 5% added to all of our checks.
And that can go to anybody.
That can go to anybody. So that goes all to our back of house.
Okay. 100%.
So all of that money goes to back of house.
I'll distribute. Yes, all the distributed money goes.
Does that start to level things out?
It does. It helps enormously.
Okay.
It's never going to be equal. The tips are always higher, but it helps enormously. I mean, right now it's working out well because we don't have a ton of people in back of house, so it's really aiding those people's hourly wages. But it's also paid out quarterly, whereas people who are getting tips are getting it in their paycheck every week or every other week.
So you kind of have to stick around.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see that admin fee a lot. I know that actually Rachel's company that was in here last week, Big Deep Dipper Hospitality Group, has been doing that. So if you're listening and you see that fee, do know like it goes right to the back of house employees.
And you hope, we talked about it the other day, because we have less hourlies right now who are receiving that, and that's going to start to increase. So, you that money that's going directly to them, the percentage is going down, but hopefully the sales just continue to go up. So it's not going to impact it that much.
Right. Is this something you have to constantly use as a lever? I mean, because if those wages start getting up, will the front of house people start grumbling? I mean, is there any of that going on, or is everybody just?
If we get there, then it's a good problem, I think, to have to equalize.
Hasn't been a problem yet.
No, and I don't foresee it really being a problem.
There's going to be a lot of talk about tipping, minimum wage, front of house, back of house, hourly versus salaried employments in restaurants coming up this year, especially as in Washington, federal minimum wage continues to be talked about, discussed. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and also wages are going up too, because just for those people who have been working through this time period, I mean, it's been really tough, and it's really appreciative for all that they've been doing. So the hourly wages are going up. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Have you experienced firsthand people who are on unemployment who have just told you, hey, they're just not, it's not worth it for them to come back?
Yes, it happened much more during the last, I would say 6 to 9 months when we were first reopening. It happened a lot. Now people,
which was last summer.
Yeah. Now people are a little bit more anxious to get back to work. They're kind of letting go of that, and I don't even know. Some of them, I don't know what that looks like for how long they can continue getting unemployment. I haven't stayed up to date with all the changing.
Well, there is one change that I also wanted to go over. I saw a news item. I'm sure Jesse.
I like this. Now we're referencing the news. This feels very.
Do we like this?
Professional.
I like it because I'm not reading the news, so it keeps me up to date.
All right, great. I know Jesse is going to be big in on this subject, and I'm sure Liza has a lot to say about it. I'm going to need it explained to me, so I'm just prepping you right now. There is a big tax credit, the big in quotation marks, because I'm reading this article from the National Restaurant Association. It says big tax credits to restaurants could support employee retention. And there's a new law signed in December that basically means per employee, you get a tax credit.
Yes, this is huge. This is huge.
And apparently...
This is the ERTC?
Yes.
The ERTC.
Employee Retention Tax Credit.
Right. Yes, right.
Yes.
When the taxpayer, it was a bill passed in 2020 in December. Now for any calendar quarter between March 13th and December 31st, 2020, a restaurant with 100 or fewer full-time employees may be able to access ERTC, as Jesse just said, up to $5,000 per employee.
In 2020.
And then in 2021, it's up to $7,000.
Per quarter in 2021.
So explain this to me.
Okay. So in 2020, you can get up to, from the time the pandemic began, or March 13th.
Retroactively.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can get up to $5,000 per employee. If you have paid them $10,000, you can get back 50% of their wages up to $5,000 per employee.
So they had to have had stayed with you. That's key, right?
No.
Oh,
No.
really?
Any employee.
Okay.
Yes. And the money's coming to the business.
Correct.
Right.
Right. It's a tax credit.
It's a tax credit. Yes. So that's for 2020. In 2021, it changes by quarter. So you can get up to 70%. If they're making $10,000, you can get up to 70%, which is $7,000 per quarter, which is only for the first 2 quarters as of right now.
Yeah, but now you're a little more busy than last time. You probably have more employees than you did.
Correct.
During the $5,000.
It's a massive
It's a massive credit. And the thing that has been, I guess, has gotten me going is that I don't think everybody knows about this. I don't think people are informed, and it's very hard to understand. And they've changed, right? So the beginning of all this you could not get the tax credit if you were getting a PPP loan. It was one or the other.
Okay.
So when
it was announced in December of last year, they said if you're getting PPP, this isn't for you.
And there's
anyway.
still information on the internet that says you can do PPP or you can do the ERC.
I had read that.
Yes. So that's
wrong.
out there as well. That's incorrect. I mean, I was sitting on the couch one night with my husband. He was reading over the IRS website and couldn't understand it. And he had already spoken to his accountant and he didn't think he could get this tax credit. And that was false. He could. The way it's written is incredibly hard to understand. The information out there is not clear. And I got really quite angry because, we happen to have really wonderful support. We have a great accountant, Johanna, who works for you, works for us as well. We have the resources. We have people who have the time and energy to look into all of this. There are many people, especially minority-owned businesses, who are just struggling to make it day in and day out,
right,
to make their business survive, that I don't know how they're getting this information. So, we tried to push it a little bit on our Instagram page, but getting those resources and getting to those people, it's frustrating. There are firms out there who are helping to do it too, because it's very laborious.
But they can't reach out to everybody and just be like, hey, you need help?
We didn't know about this until our accountant emailed us.
Right.
So how are people getting their information? And
in theory, every single restaurant in one way or another is going to be eligible to some sort of tax credit under this.
Yes, every restaurant. You have to have been impacted by partially or fully being shut down.
There you go.
That's every
single restaurant.
Yes. And you have to be, and this is every single restaurant too, is that for one, basically you're down 50%, and during one quarter of the year. And then for every consecutive ones, at least as if you're down 80%, you can continue to get this tax credit.
So if your revenue is $500,000 and you hit $250,000 because of this, you're eligible.
Correct.
And it's calculated, it sounds like it's calculated on a quarterly basis. So for somebody Q2 2020, I would argue, other than grocery,
who is eligible?
Beer and wine, any employer. It's federal law.
This is not just restaurants.
No,
Correct.
it's a tax credit. So I would say any retailer, I'm just trying to think in my head, non-pharmacy, grocery, liquor store, who all I think did pretty well, not all, many of them, is going to be eligible for this as well. This is what's infuriating. I think this is the source of your anger, Liza, which is that so many people don't know about this. The money's there, the tax credit's there. There's been a lot of legislation, but many people aren't going to access this money and have every right to. Or excuse me, not access this money. It's very different than PPP. It's not a check. It's a tax credit, to be clear, right?
And
Yes.
Does this mean you only get it though if you're profitable, since it's a credit?
Nope. If you are owed more money than what you've paid in taxes,
Comes
you will
back
get a
as a
check.
refund.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's even that's even better news.
I mean, everyone should be getting this who's been impacted, and people
And
don't
you have
know.
less than 100 employees, or there are rules, but
Right, and you're down 50% in a quarter and 80% in subsequent quarters to continue benefiting from it.
Sounds like a good blog post. We should post
we
some
should.
links with this.
I mean, we should do more than that.
There are also it is laborious to do, because going through and tracking all of this, thank goodness for the support that we have. But there are firms out there, and they of course are going to take a percentage of whatever your credit is.
But
that will do it.
It's found money.
It's found money.
Yeah.
So you're saying there are firms that will do this work for small businesses, and they'll say, look, if I save you $100K, I'll take
9%.
There you go, $9,000.
Yep.
See that math?
And you weren't going to get anything because you couldn't figure it out on your own.
Right.
I mean,
You weren't going to get $91,000 back.
yeah, I know, Jesse. It was good.
More good math.
It was
Right?
good math.
Wait, can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
This is to Liza.
Oh, yes.
Have you talked to other retailers, restaurateurs? Is this truly something people just aren't aware of?
I know many people, when we posted about it, reached out and said that they hadn't heard about it. Like we did it on our stories. Have you heard of this? Yes, no. I would say, I can't remember exactly, but at least 50%, maybe more, hadn't heard of it.
Wow.
And not all of those are business owners.
Yeah.
But I had people who are in, said, "Oh, this is great. I hadn't heard of this. I'll let my boss know, or I'll let, my employer know." It's not commonly, hopefully by now it is more commonly known, but my concern is that the people who need it most do not know about this.
So even if they know about it, they just don't know what's next. They don't know what steps to take.
And they don't even know how to do it.
Yeah. Or have the resources.
No, you have to, have to go through and you have to amend your payroll tax forms from 2020 because a lot of people maybe have already done their taxes, assuming they did it on time. But
just for the people who are listening and freaking out, like there's all this found money that they haven't tapped into.
It's not too late.
It's not too late. And Drew, you can't answer this question. 2021, I think we covered the employee tax retention credit also is alive for 2021.
Correct. And you can receive up to $14,000 per employee for the first 2 quarters.
Well, yeah, the article says through June 30th, and I'm sure it'll extend.
Yeah, right now it's just for Q1 and Q2.
It also gives all these examples, which I couldn't follow, but I'm not smart enough.
There's accountants out there that were unable to follow this, at least when it initially came out. It's very convoluted, and there's a lot of gray, and the IRS doesn't make it easy for the average person to understand.
Yeah, the average person, think about so many of the small business owners that English isn't their first language. Drew, look at Drew struggling over there. He can barely read this. He's got an MBA.
Well, and then you add in the fact that you may get a PPP loan, which also looks like it factors into things. I gave up. I was
it does factor in, but you can't double dip in kind of your benefit. But so you can't get tax credit back off of the payroll that you've used towards your PPP. So there's so many layers to this, and it's really hard to understand. As you can tell right now, we're just fumbling it over in conversation.
I'm not fumbling. I think
fumbling describes our whole podcast. So yeah, okay. I'll buy that.
Yeah. And you can get ERC, ERTC with PPP1, with PPP2, with this, there's another grant now that's just coming out through the Independent Restaurant Coalition just helped with the Restaurant Revitalization Fund.
Which was part of the most recent stimulus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
that
grant.
$28 billion.
28, yeah.
And that one is specifically for restaurants.
Correct.
Right. I think that's why I got confused.
Yes.
I thought they were attached,
yes.
but they're clearly not. If you're out there and you need help, podcast@graffito.com. Maybe we can try.
And I'm happy to be a resource as well.
There you go.
We'll hook you up with Liza.
I can only give so much information, but I do have, for these firms who are out there and help get this money for people.
What you do is you go into Revival, you order a sandwich, and you ask for Liza. I'm not saying Eliza. I know it sounds like I am. And you say, while I'm waiting, can I just ask you a quick question? And then
consultation.
Now they just have to find you.
Right.
How do you split your time between 3 different restaurants? Are you constantly rovering between them?
It totally depends on the day. And actually it depends, now I was out of the restaurants for a pretty large chunk of time with COVID because of
You didn't have COVID because of COVID.
I did not have COVID.
But because of COVID.
Because of COVID
Right.
and choices that we made for our kids and schooling and our family life.
I assume this was like last March, April, May, and those.
Well, we were closed then, yeah, but we opened up, and then when really over the winter was, I was not in the restaurants much at all because our kids are actually in this high risk. We happen to be in this high risk medically fragile pod, which we are not medically fragile, but we ended up choosing this path for socialization, education, and what was best for our kids this year, and kind of got into this whole thing. And so it really was a challenge for me to figure out how to balance what was best for my family, my kids, and for the business and my career. So I was not in the restaurant day to day for a long time. It's just actually been recent since the uptick in business, and I've been much more active on a day-to-day basis. So now, today before I came here, I started my day at Davis, and then I was coming downtown, so I went by and said hi to everyone at Newbury Street and spent a little time there. And then we'll head out to Alewife, and I'll hit all 3 today. But that's the first time this week, which I'm getting to all 3 in one day.
And then if you're not at all 3, do you focus on one during the day and just kind of
the Alewife is definitely the hub. We have the space. We have.
Do you have an office there? Probably.
We do have an office, but it's a tight office, so I haven't been working out of the office. But we have a wonderful office that is a built-out, beautiful restaurant that I can work out of.
We're definitely going to talk about that.
It's open. We can open the windows. It's.
So you have a giant restaurant all to yourself. Before we get into
Wait,
also,
Drew. So just because some people may not be following here. None of the Revivals are currently open for indoor
dine-in.
seating, for dine-in.
For indoor dining,
Yes.
correct.
Takeout only.
Takeout
Takeout
only.
Somebody said take in. We were on a restaurant. They called it take in.
Take in.
Take into your
And
house?
I guess that's what they meant.
Take
But
into your car?
It started this debate in our house. It was like, take in, I guess makes sense because Mindy and I are constantly playing devil's advocate, you know?
Take in, yeah.
But it's take out.
is
When
it-
you go to a restaurant's website, you expect to
It's
see
more
take
bring
out.
in than take in, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, if you're out there and you take in, fix that shit right away.
Yeah, bring in. I get it.
I want to talk about your partnership, but before we do, your most important partner, Josh, who's here. Josh Shirazi from Shirazi Distributing was here last year, and we talked to him a little bit. And obviously his business, since he's in food distribution, is greatly impacted by the pandemic. It didn't occur to me to ask him this, and I think it's really important to know. When shit hit the fan last March, how did you guys cope as a couple? Because you both had individual businesses greatly impacted by the pandemic.
Easy softball question.
What's the tone at the house? Like, you have your own individual problems. How do you guys support each other?
Great question. It was definitely a high stress time because we had all of our eggs in one basket. We're both in the food business. So it was different for me though because in March we closed.
Right.
After we cleaned the restaurants and what we're doing at that point is taking care of staff and just being there for each other. But I was still working, but then I could really support the family more. He was still needing to go in every day. So he was out of the house. I mean, I think it probably impacted his business more than ours because he was totally dependent on all restaurants, right? And we knew we would get through. At Revival, we were optimistic, and we knew even before the PPP came through that we were hopeful that we were going to get support, and we did get support, and we've been okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's been hard, but and I always just believed we would be okay. So, Josh was definitely dealing with more of the stress and kind of that question, like, are we going to get through this? Will my business still be here at the other end of this?
Is that typical? He's usually the one that worries about that stuff more than you, or?
He will go like probably 50 steps ahead where I'm kind of more in that moment. And then I'll catch up at some point in time.
I feel like your brother's that way too, a little more in the moment.
Me?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm constantly worried about tomorrow, a week from now, a year from now, but I don't feel that from you. I don't know.
Fortunately, I don't. This is actually true, and I guess I'm lucky in this to this extent, is that fortunately in my marriage and in my business partnership, when we feel stress, it's typically not at the same time, which is amazing because you can balance it out. And, I think Josh's stress usually hits kind of quicker.
That means
faster.
Nookie and Josh are always stressed at the same time.
Well, no, because they're not. No, I mean, sometimes probably.
Chef Nookie is your work husband.
Yes.
And
Want to
your
hear a funny
partner.
story about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So,
well, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
so Josh may be the only one who may not want me to tell us, but that's okay. So,
Josh, turn this off. Just give us 5 minutes, okay?
So when Nookie and I partnered up, obviously he came on board and he was helping run Crema. This now feels like so long ago. Anyways, he's
Well,
helping.
how long ago was that?
So, Crema closed in 2018. He came on board in 2017.
So it's 4 years ago.
It feels like a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is it? No.
Well, last year equals 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Revival was in the making.
I think it was 2016 that Nookie joined you over there.
Could have been 2016.
Yeah.
It's all a blur. Anyway, Revival was in the making, and we were trying to figure out, before we had a name, we spent months trying to figure out what to call it. What is this new cafe going to be once we knew it was not going to continue on as Crema? And the first name that we came up with that kind of stuck, which was vetoed very quickly by Josh, was Love Child. And, I think Nookie came up with that one, but it was kind of like thinking about bringing Commonwealth and Crema together and forming this, other child. And it was kind of this Love
makes
Child.
sense.
And Josh goes, I'm just not comfortable with that.
People are already going to wonder, when you have a partner that's not your spouse.
Right.
So when you get close,
That would be hard branding project. Love
Child. I wouldn't want that project.
Yeah.
I think there's a wine out there, Love Child.
There's gotta be some,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a bunch.
There's a person named Love Child. You met Chef Nookie, you started working with him rather at Crema, and then when you closed, you basically decided to go into business together.
No, Revival was already open.
It was?
Yeah.
So how did he come on, and is he a partner?
He was not a partner. He came on with the intention of becoming a partner. And then, obviously everything happened and we couldn't get a new lease and we had to leave the Square. So my partner at the time.
Which Square are we talking about?
Harvard Square.
Okay.
Sorry.
Crema.
Yep. Yeah. So my partner at Crema, she decided that she was going to go on, and she was going back to grad school for counseling, and she was ready for the next move. So we came. Actually, I first met Nookie at Crema on the mezzanine for a Steinbones pop up.
Oh, that's right.
Which is your barbecue, Jesse's barbecue company back in the day, right?
Company. Is a,
You mean it's not an LLC?
no, it was an LLC.
Oh, okay, all right.
So Jesse had a relationship with Nookie way before I did.
Right.
Yeah, we had a very successful barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
I've heard about
enterprise.
that.
And I have to thank Michael Staub because he helped make that connection. So initially we hooked up with Nookie because Marley was going to be exiting and she was doing a lot of our catering business, and we had this business, but we couldn't keep operating it. So we ended up selling our catering business to Nookie at Commonwealth.
Okay.
And then this whole conversation started, he had found this place in Davis Square and wanted to open a cafe, and my partner was leaving, and we just started talking, and that's how it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So timing is perfect too.
Timing, yes.
You can say that now.
Well,
Yeah.
the timing was perfect for the partnership. The timing of the Davis Square Cafe wasn't perfect because we paid rent for that place for 2 years before we ever opened. So
Oh man.
that timing didn't work out
Why?
quite
What
so
was
well.
what was the delay there?
The delay was, Nookie found this incredible space, so he scooped it up and signed a lease. But and this was also the same time we were looking for a much larger space where we could do some of our production, and we could actually start Revival. So Alewife had to come first, but we didn't have a built out space in Alewife. So, we were going to do Davis, and then when we found out we were going to be doing Alewife took the priority, and Davis kind of just sat there. And at one point during the
Right, because you're not going to build out a kitchen at Davis when you have a commissary.
we didn't need a
being built
full,
out.
yeah, we didn't need to build out a full kitchen. And so we ended up I have this image in the winter because it's sitting there over the winter. We literally there during one of the coldest weeks in the winter, we were throwing flames. Have you seen one of these flamethrowers where you go down? It's something that you hold up to the pipes; they don't freeze. We were taking shifts every few hours
Just to make sure they didn't
because it was
freeze.
this empty storefront, zero heat. It was completely gutted. So that
Jesse,
was,
where is your consulting, by the way, for Chef Nookie to sign this lease?
There's not much consulting in that relationship.
Chef, does he just kind of do whatever he wants?
We talk about things.
To be fair, Davis has been with COVID. Davis is doing great because the way that we designed it, we had this beautiful takeout window which we never used. Come COVID, it's perfect. I mean, the operation there is working better than it is anywhere else.
Right.
It was built for this.
No, I remember Nookie talking about Davis. He loved the space. It was in a community he's part of. He wanted to do it. And I remember saying, yeah, go for it. You'll figure it out. And at the time, if I remember, you knew you were going to be in partnership together. You hadn't figured out the commissary. There are a lot of people that intersect with this story. And I think right after you signed the lease for Alewife was when I got a call from Adam Brink. Shout out to Adam if he's listening, who's now at Alexandria, was at CBRE, who said, hey, the Whole Foods commissary, because we'd already talked about a commissary, the Whole Foods commissary in Alewife, they're leaving. Would your sister be interested? And I remember being...
Right after we signed the Davis lease, you mean?
It all happened like right after Davis.
Yes.
And
so things shifted and changed.
And in fairness, that's what delayed Davis is because
Davis would have happened. Davis would have cruised quicker if you needed it as badly as
and
you did.
Ironically, Davis ended up opening within days, maybe it was a week or two, when Crema closed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was crazy timing.
Yeah.
And Alewife took a long time because remember the building sold midstream?
Yes, there was a lot that happened that delayed things, but here we are.
Yeah.
It worked out.
I mean, obviously, Chef Nookie's in charge of signing leases without you. How else do you...
Not anymore.
How do you split responsibilities with a partner?
Our partnership works out really well because our skills are really different. I don't have a culinary background or worked in a kitchen, and he's really, that's all him. Mine was more coffee focused, front of house, business operations. So, I do more of the back end stuff.
Tasting coffees.
I taste a lot of coffee. Coffee was a whole new world for him. So it's been.
He used to like bad coffee. Remember?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
he didn't get it.
But he's come around. He has come around. He has an appreciation now.
Yeah.
But it's been really interesting. We used to talk a lot about this, but in the restaurant industry, you have a lot of chefs who, are doing all this stuff and have partnerships with these amazing farms, and they're curating all these amazing ingredients, from the source and very natural and pure. But the coffee program is kind of, they don't pay attention to it, which I totally get it. It's kind of like you can only do so much, but there's the parallels there and the similarities, are they're there, and you'd think that there would be more attention to that program, and more kind of collaboration with kind of the menu in general. But so that was a cool experience to kind of go through that with him, and the learning process as a chef, and kind of appreciation for fine goods, but never dove into the coffee world.
So you both have your domains basically within the partnership. Did that happen?
And our personalities are very different, so we balance each other out.
Was that always part of the plan? Like, look, you're the food, I'm the front of house, and I'm going to take care of the coffee, and let's just move forward? Or
I wouldn't say it was part of the plan. It was organic.
Chef Nookie runs and owns Commonwealth, but you are not a partner in that.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a sensitive question.
Sure.
Are there occasions in which there are conflicts of interest? Because he obviously has 2 establishments, but does he ever, is there ever a time where it's like, hey man, why are you doing this at Commonwealth?
No, there's never been an issue.
Okay, well, fine. Trying to get Nookie in trouble, maybe.
No.
Well, that's
we have
great.
a great partnership.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I believe it.
Well, they actually,
You
I
guys
will
are
say,
great people.
this isn't like podcast shtick. You guys have a great partnership.
We do.
Yeah, I believe it.
We do.
How do you make decisions together? Do you strictly stick to your domain, and if it's in a restaurant or about coffee, or do you always kind of consult each other?
We always talk to one another.
And is it usually a consensus, or?
Yeah.
It's so much easier than what Rachel has to do with her.
I know, you're kind of ruining the podcast.
Sorry. It's kind of ironic too, because it's just been easy, and I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's how it works. I mean, that's when it's
That's how it should work, but it usually doesn't work that way.
No, trust me, I know. Doesn't work in a marriage, doesn't work in a partnership. I get it.
I will say, Liza, you and Marley did have a really good partnership for
Very
a long
good.
time.
At Crema.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very different though. I mean, we were so close. We were so personally connected, and for a time we were living together, we were working together. Like we only saw each other when we first opened.
It's rare to find somebody that you don't know that well and just go into business with them.
Correct. I never thought I would find a new business partner.
Yeah.
I never did, because you know how difficult it is when you're in it.
Yeah, your fantasy is that you just know this person forever.
Right.
And you already know what each other
and
likes.
I knew how difficult it was with, this can bring in other complications, but with somebody who
let's talk about that.
Well, no, I was doing it with a very, very, very close friend, which could, which could end poorly.
Sure.
It did not. And
because best friends don't always make great business partners.
Correct. But I knew how hard it was being so close and being able to talk to this person about anything. Like we could talk about it. We could talk it out. We'd come to a resolution. So I was thinking, if this is challenging with somebody who's one of the closest people in my lives, how am I going to find anyone who I can operate a business together? Because it's like you have a child together. You have a
love child.
Did you ever think that you could do this on your own, or was it always like, I need somebody?
No.
Right.
I wouldn't want to do this on my own.
Just too much.
Yeah.
And you have a life. You have children and
yeah.
Yeah.
So one commentary on that. I was again talking to Josh one night, and he overheard me on the phone with Nookie, and he could kind of hear what we were talking about. And I got off the phone. He was like, "That was amazing." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Those are the conversations I have in my head, just with myself."
Right.
And the fact that you can actually,
because he's alone,
have that back and forth with another individual because you have a business partner. He's not. He's partners with his father, but obviously they have very different.
Right.
That's a very different partnership.
Right.
He's like, the fact that I could just experience that, and you have somebody to bounce everything off of. There's so much value there. I've always known I would never want to operate on my own.
Jesse, do you feel like you miss out on having a partner or somebody else? You come to us frequently with your decisions.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of Graffito. It does feel like I've got the support of you guys, and I feel like I kind of am pretty transparent with the company in a way I'd probably be with partners. So I think there are times, but I think based on the strength of our team, I don't miss it that much. I would also say I think the restaurant business is so much harder from a management perspective than a service business. It is a service business, but than a traditional consulting, strategy, development, kind of white collar business, in that you guys are managing so many personalities. there are vendors, Johanna, we share a bookkeeper. Like our books are easy. We get a small handful of checks and we cut a small handful of checks.
Right. There are not a lot of transactions.
We have less transactions in a month than Revival has in 5 minutes. It's just, it's a complicated, it's a hard business.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about this new restaurant.
Mothership?
Yeah.
Oh.
Same building as your Alewife Revival
Same
location.
building, across the hall. We'll share a kitchen. So it's a good question because, COVID has changed a lot, but COVID is also changing what the identity of that restaurant was going to be.
I've been in it. It's done.
It was done
before
it's beautiful.
the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was done. They finished it, in May, probably, completed it. I mean, obviously there's going to be things that we need to do to get up and running. Previously it was going to be doing lunch and then like after dinner drinks and, dinner service, early dinner service.
Because it is an office complex. So you figure those people come down.
Right. So it would be, we were going to do a different sort of, rotating lunch, different kind of cuisine daily. We had a lunch line set up, which those are out the door at this point. Kind of buffet, not buffet style, but service, but it's kind of lined up on. And then, full bar and a light bar menu or a bar menu. And we could basically, get the weekend residents who are there and then after dinner or after work, dinner and drinks. And what it's going to be, probably shift a bit. We don't know. We're waiting to kind of see this through because that area, I don't know if you've been over there, but it's just a construction site right now.
This is Alewife in
This is Cambridge Park
But,
Drive.
We're talking about right in front of the building.
Yeah, the whole street, really.
Yeah.
It is worth mentioning, it's saying out loud here in the podcast, that you guys have really benefited from an excellent relationship with your landlord.
Amazing. They've been amazing. And, that's one of the reasons why we've been able to get through this. So,
Well, they have a lot invested in you.
They do.
I mean, they've helped you build
It's a
this
mutually
space out.
beneficial relationship for sure.
Right.
But they've been great and they've been super supportive. And I don't know how people have gotten through this COVID period without supportive landlords.
They're not. Some of them aren't.
Correct. Right.
Exactly.
Correct. So they haven't seen though a return to those offices at all. So that's our clientele. I mean, there's a lot of residential.
And they're probably sensitive. They're aware of the fact that your clients are not coming to their own buildings because that was probably the whole plan from the start.
Right. And they're kind of, some of their buildings are transitioning to being lab buildings. So they're.
So what does that mean for your opening?
I don't know.
Don't know. Okay.
So
and that's a partnership with Nookie.
Yes. Yeah.
And that transition to lab has a lot of different impacts. It has physical impacts. It has density in terms of, offices are typically more densely populated than lab space.
Demographics are going to be different.
Yeah. Different kinds of businesses, different hours oftentimes, even thinking about the flow of a building throughout the day. Lab benches versus cubicles is different.
Yeah. And it will, I'm excited for the space when it finally does open. It's just about picking the right time because, there's a sensitivity too. Once you've gone through COVID, it's like, getting through till next winter too. It's kind of like, well, let's see what happens because this is the type of thing are we going to ramp up? And this is completely different from our service, the cafes right now. So we're going to staff up. We're going to, we have to buy a whole new inventory of product, liquor, all of that. And just want to make sure that we do it in the proper timing. So,
and if your landlord's on the same page, there's really no rush, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not in a rush to start making money if they're sort of understanding the situation.
Well,
who needs to make money these days?
If we were going to make money there, we would open. But I think the thing is that we look like we're competing with ourselves at this point. So there's only a certain amount of people on the street. And we would open up and compete with the business over at Revival. And then, what's going to happen? Maybe people come back to work in September, but we don't know. So it's like we want to be sure that we're doing this in the proper timing. So we're not, investing in building up our staffing and spending all this money on inventory and smallwares and all of that. And
just gonna sit around.
Then what?
Well, shit.
So we'll see. It'll open and it'll be great once it does. And that area is going to be great. There's a lot of there's just a lot of opportunity.
Yeah,
there.
there's a lot of potential.
And I can almost feel it. Like when it is there, it's going to be great. It's just not the timing. It's not a good time to open a bar right now.
No, and it's a good hang. We checked it out. I wouldn't say we hung out, but we got to see it. It is definitely the type of place where you could go after work and hang out.
But
for
the question is,
when
are you going to feel like you're going to want to do that?
Well, that's the big question for everybody. And you're not in any hurry to do dining at any of your restaurants. So the
No, but
idea
we're-
of
yeah.
opening there would just not make sense.
Right. And that's the thing. The priority is to kind of phase back into normal, quote unquote, normal service at our establishments that are already open.
Have you
before
had
we
the
open them.
conversation yet about when to open for indoor dining?
We have.
At Revival, you mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, at Revival, yes.
We have, and it will definitely be a phased approach. I mean, number one is we want all of our staff who wants to get vaccinated. That's first and foremost.
Do you have some staff that don't want to get vaccinated?
Some, but very small.
Yeah.
It's a handful. And once that happens, it's like we want to make sure our staff is comfortable and safe at the workplace.
Are you trying to get them their shots, or are they sort of on their own doing it?
We've been helping
Okay.
those who want the help. Yeah, there's definitely been a collaborative effort. And as soon as we became eligible, like that day, we helped everyone pre-register when we could pre-register, and everybody who is wanting a shot has gotten their first shot by now,
Including yourself.
including myself.
We're running out of time, but
We hit a lot.
we hit a lot, but we need to talk about Jesse. Jesse, I don't know if you want to stay for this. I want to know what Jesse was like growing up.
I wondered if this was going to come up.
Of course it's going to come up.
I knew this was good.
I always talk about his optimism. Was Jesse always an optimistic kid?
Optimistic. So Jesse's changed a lot since he was a kid. I have to
Great,
say.
let's do it. We got 20 minutes.
I thought we were running low on time.
I just found some.
You know, it's interesting. My son always asked me last night at bedtime. He said he wanted to know about when Jesse and I got in trouble when we were young.
Oh, okay.
And he always is asking these questions, so I have had some time to think about it. I remember Jesse had a bit of a temper as a kid. Because he has a lot of energy, as you know.
I do.
As our mom used to call it, gusto. He had a lot of gusto.
That's why I'm so happy.
Gusto.
He loves
Gusto.
Gusto, sorry, gusto.
What the heck
I was
is
thinking
gusto?
Sorry, I'm
like,
thinking. I'm sitting
Gustavo?
here looking at Goose's desk, and that's in my head. Congratulations,
Gustavo?
Gusto. Yeah, Gusto, Grand Gusto. Anyway,
Don't know where that came from.
and there's a lot of. I mean, he has a lot of energy, and I didn't know if he knew where to.
Well, I got easily frustrated, which I now see in my son as well. Like I got frustrated a lot as a young
because you
person.
didn't know how to spend it. The
I
energy.
just had a lot of there was a lot going on for this little guy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good thing.
And it
you
would
love
burst. It
coffee
would burst
so much.
out. Yeah, it would burst out, and sometimes it would be in
Tantrum-esque.
Yeah.
But was he, given the temperament I get, and kids are kids, they blow up, but was he happy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was always a happy kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You agree with that, Jesse? You felt like a happy kid.
I feel like
I mean, he was really happy terrorizing me too, as well,
that's
teasing
not,
me.
I don't know. If that's
Were you
right.
guys in the same high school at the same time? You must have been.
No, we missed by a year.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I missed my sister by a year too, which I'm actually grateful for, except for when the teachers go, "Oh, you're Lizzie's brother," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm screwed." They did
those
not
years,
like my sister.
like your high school years and my middle school years, like we were kind of just like operating in parallel. Like we didn't
Yeah.
really.
There wasn't much overlap.
There wasn't a lot of overlap, but we really got close when Jesse went to college. Like once he moved out of the house.
Yeah.
Once Liza got some distance.
Once she was the only child, you were in
Right.
the rear view mirror.
Right.
Well, it also
so are
happens
you
like
4 years over? You're
Four
farther
grades.
apart in school.
Yeah, 4
Okay,
grades.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we really started enjoying each other's company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as we became adults. This was nice.
As
That wasn't
Je-
that
as
bad.
Jesse-
No,
as
I didn't know
Jesse-
we
We're
were-
not done.
Jesse matured, and so we could finally get close and become.
Yeah.
That's not inaccurate.
But I actually,
Right.
when I graduated, at least for a summer, I moved in and I lived with Jesse for a summer
Give
back
me
in
a,
Boston.
give me a good terrorizing story that he would do.
I can just hear. So his son has this laugh too. They have these high pitched voices, and I can just hear that laughter when like he would just do these little things to get under my skin always. And I think this is because it's on video. But we were young and we were sitting on the front steps of our.
This can't be interesting to people.
It is.
I don't know.
It is.
We're sitting on a
interested.
step, and I'm just sitting there minding my own business, and he kept scooching closer to me, closer and closer, and I'm moving away, and he's just like anything he could do to get under my skin.
Pushing your buttons.
That's funny,
Right.
actually. When Sai does that now to Maya, I want to just...
Yeah.
Well, now you know how your parents felt.
This will be the
Jesse.
first podcast. I'm sure my kids will listen. They were very excited to hear that Liza was going to be in the podcast.
They didn't care so much about Uncle Josh.
They didn't listen to that.
Well, I just cursed many times in this episode, so
That's
I
okay.
apologize
Well,
in advance.
I now feel for our parents because I can hear myself whining with Jesse annoying me, and I can hear his little high pitched voice and laughter, and it must have been really aggravating.
So hard. Parenting's hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
I don't think you can fully appreciate the tormenting until you're I don't know, on the other end of it.
Jesse, I want to know.
Yeah.
Your sister has a great restaurant, cafe.
Thank you.
How often are you giving her feedback, and how honest are you with your feedback?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Because I have friends that I feel like, they ask me for feedback and I'm uncomfortable sometimes.
I think we've, I think in the early days of Crema, well, first of all, we just weren't as busy as humans when Liza first got in the restaurant business. I think we were talking more. I think there are moments when I'm giving a lot of feedback and we're talking a lot, whether it's around like a new project or certainly real estate, but I don't give any... it'd be interesting to hear what Liza says.
I mean, if you have a terrible sandwich, are you going to say something? Or if you have a bad experience?
Yeah, but I think I'll say it in my own Jesse way, which is like, hey, Liza, I tried that sandwich Nookie put in the menu.
What's the deal with that?
What is that?
His delivery is actually very good.
It is.
A lot of people will be, it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear criticism or feedback from those who are really close to you. Sometimes it's just, it can be annoying.
That's why I asked.
But this won't be just a surprise to many, is that his delivery is really good. And his feedback, his feedback and his advice was really good. And I was young when I opened Crema, and Jesse was also a great source of confidence for me. I mean, he, similar to my parents, he really believed in me and he fueled that confidence. And, I did a lot for me.
That's that optimism. That's what I'm worried about. Because I could go, Jesse, I'm going to jump off that cliff. He's going to be like, all right.
Right.
Like,
he's definitely, and he's
Just
more
be
of a
careful,
risk,
Drew.
He's more of a risk taker than I am. And so he kind of was helped to push me to like kind of give me that sense of kind of, take that jump. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Go for it.
The early days, I remember Liza and Marley doing menu testing and coffee tastings. This must have been 2006, 7?
7.
Those were some nice days. But I will say we talk a lot about coffee now. A lot about coffee. And we could start talking about coffee now. Why don't we do that?
No. We're not having a coffee podcast. Fine. So last question. What kind of discount are you getting, Jesse, over there?
Since the pandemic hit, I get no discount and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, that is good.
That's by choice.
I feel good spending my money on local restaurants and retail right now.
However, there should always be discount because, you have provided a lot of service to us as well.
Is that
giving the overlap of our businesses?
True.
And legal advice as well.
True.
So,
Technically, you're
not good legal advice, but definitely legal advice.
Technically, you're a client.
Yeah.
Aren't you? I mean,
yeah.
But my emails when I was going to answer, my phone calls when I was going to answer. Like I'm not really tended to that well because
family goes to the back burner. I get it.
Yeah.
Well,
that's very true.
Thank you so much for coming in. This is the
Thank
hardest
you.
part of the podcast is ending it.
Yeah.
I realize all I do is criticize Saturday Night Live because they can't end a sketch. I don't know how to end these podcasts. It's always like, well, thanks for coming in.
Well, we just kind of talk and eventually
someone says something funny and the music fades in.
You can just cut it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great to see your faces.
I wouldn't
really
even
nice.
from very far apart.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Jesse's face.
I know.
We haven't been indoors en masse at
And it's
all.
not like we're Zooming very often.
Yeah.
But it has been nice. I just got like a really good update on what's going on in Revival. That was great because we haven't spoke that much lately.
Because you're both getting vaccinated, the moment you're both vaccinated, do the families come right back together? Have you talked about that?
We haven't talked about it. The kids won't be vaccinated, so that's another layer of complication.
Do they play now, though?
Outdoor masked.
They're similar
outside.
age.
Yeah.
Yeah, our
Cousins. Do they get along?
5 days apart.
Oh my God.
My oldest is 5 days apart from Jesse's twins.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
they get along very well.
Great.
That really surprised you, huh? You like that?
It's just not a given that kids the same age like each other.
Yeah.
So it's lucky when cousins can get together and they play. I mean, my cousins were all different ages, but like there were people that were my age I didn't care for.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens when I get older.
Yeah, but sorry, going back to the vaccine question.
Yeah.
Plans to
This summer we're going
Socialize
away
again.
together.
We're going to go away.
where are you going?
Cape Cod.
Okay. You do that a lot. You've done it,
We did
Except
it
for last year.
We've done it every year since the kids were born until last year. Yeah.
Do you have an extra room? I'm not doing
For who?
anything. I'm not doing anything this summer.
Yeah, we have an extra room.
I play well with kids, which is not true.
Well, the kids like the drone a lot.
I think we could fly them around.
So we could leave all 4 of them with Drew and
No,
just
would not do that. Would definitely not.
It won't work out. My problem with kids is I don't know what to say or do with them, and I just end up lying about stuff. I'll be like, I remember one time I was with this kid and I started talking about elephants, and I didn't know any facts about elephants, but so I started lying about elephants. Like, well, yeah, they're like 20 semi trucks, the weight of semi. And then the kid saying to the mom the next day that Drew said that elephants' trunks can come off. I just don't know what to say to kids.
So
It's
Maya
very
and Si are
uncomfortable.
not going to believe anything that comes out of your mouth anymore.
I don't mean to do it. It just like, I don't know what to say. So I just,
You just can't help yourself.
That's my diarrhea of the mouth is like terrible lies about innocent children eat things. Well, on
that's great.
On the mention of diarrhea, I think it's a good time
That's a good time to
turn this off. Yeah. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for lunch.
Thank you. This was great.
And let's do that coffee tasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have any questions about tax exemptions,
the ERTC.
feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
Bye.
You just heard another riveting episode of the Graffito Podcast. Thanks to Liza Shirazi for joining us. If you haven't been, you can go to revivalcafeandkitchen.com and learn more about Revival's Back Bay, Davis Square, and Alewife locations. For more information about the podcast, our hosts, and guests, please visit graffito.com and click on the podcast tab at the top of the page. Or join the other 10 people and follow us on Twitter at Graffito Podcast. Do you have any questions for our team? If so, email podcast@graffito.com and maybe we'll answer on one of our future episodes. Thanks for listening. Goodbye for now.